Judge Eleanor Harper banged her gavel 3 times, the sharp sound echoing through courtroom 7 of the San Francisco Federal Building. "This court is now in session," she declared, her voice cutting like a blade. "Case number 2025 CV 7842, Omnitech Industries versus Jackson Tech Incorporated." Eleanor Harper had presided over trials for 30 years. In that time, she'd seen every type of character pass through her courtroom: tech tycoons, Hollywood stars, corrupt politicians. None intimidated her. None impressed her either. So when Malik Jackson, the renowned CEO of Jackson Tech, walked into her courtroom without a lawyer by his side, a faint smirk curled her lips. Another rich man who thought the rules didn't apply to him, she thought. "Mr. Jackson," she said, glancing at the papers before her, "my records show you're representing yourself today. Is that correct?" Malik stood, his simple dark suit devoid of a tie, a stark contrast to the flashy image the media often painted of a black tech billionaire who defied countless barriers to build his empire. "Yes, Your Honor," he replied, his voice low and steady. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Even the court reporter raised an eyebrow. "Bold choice," Judge Harper said, her tone tinged with sarcasm. "Well, let's not waste time. Opening statements, please. Omnitech, you're up first." Edward Langston, Omnitech's lead attorney, stepped forward. He was tall and polished, his expensive suit gleaming under the courtroom lights, his silver hair slicked back, and his glasses likely costing more than most people's cars. "Your Honor," Langston began, his voice smooth as velvet, "this case is straightforward. Mr. Jackson's company stole our client's revolutionary battery design. We have the patent. We have the proof. By the end of this trial, the facts will speak for themselves." Judge Harper nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Langston. Mr. Jackson, your opening statement." Malik walked to the front of the courtroom. He pulled a crumpled stack of papers from his pocket, dropping one as he bent to retrieve it. A chuckle escaped from the gallery. "Your Honor," he began, his voice quieter than expected, "I'm here because Omnitech is trying to steal what my team created." He shuffled his papers, seeming to lose his place. "The battery design in question uses a special coating." Malik paused, looking confused. "Sorry, I have some diagrams somewhere." Judge Harper couldn't help it. A small laugh slipped out. "Mr. Jackson," she said, her tone laced with mockery, "this isn't a tech lab. In my courtroom, we follow proper legal procedure. Do you have your evidence organized and ready to present?" "I think so." "Your Honor," Malik replied, still fumbling with his papers. The gallery erupted in laughter. Even the bailiff cracked a smile. Harper raised a hand for silence, but her eyes sparkled with amusement. She'd seen this before: wealthy men thinking they could wing it in court without preparation. From the plaintiff's table, Edward Langston shot Malik a smug glance. This was going to be easier than he'd thought. In the gallery, a young woman with short, silver-streaked hair twisted her hands nervously. Tara Nguyen, Jackson Tech's lead engineer, felt her heart pound. This wasn't going as planned. "Perhaps you should have hired an attorney." "Mr. Jackson," Judge Harper suggested, her tone not entirely unkind. "Patent law is complex. It's not something most people can handle without legal training." "I'll manage, Your Honor," Malik replied, finally organizing his papers. Harper shrugged. "Very well. Omnitech, present your case." Langston approached with 3 assistants, wheeling in neatly organized evidence boxes. Harper leaned back in her chair, catching her clerk's eye and giving a subtle eye roll. The clerk smiled back knowingly. Langston set up a sleek, digital display. "Your Honor, if I may proceed," he said. She nodded. The courtroom lights dimmed, and a crisp slide appeared on the screen. "Omnitech filed this patent on March 15th, Langston began. "As you can see, the design is revolutionary." Harper listened attentively, occasionally glancing at Malik. He was taking notes, his face betraying nothing. "Mr. Jackson's company began producing an identical design in April," Langston continued. "The timeline alone proves our case." Throughout the presentation, Malik remained oddly calm. Once Harper caught him staring at a seemingly random point on the courtroom wall. Was he even paying attention? "Mr. Jackson," she interrupted sharply, "are you with us?" "Yes, Your Honor," Malik replied, blinking as if snapping back from deep thought. "Good," she said, "because I won't have you wasting this court's time if you're not taking these proceedings seriously." Malik nodded slightly, but something in his expression unsettled her. The morning session dragged on, and Harper grew increasingly irritated by Malik's casual approach. When he finally objected to something, his argument was so poorly framed that she had to cut him off. "Mr. Jackson, that's not how hearsay works," she explained, her patience thinning. "Perhaps you could benefit from a crash course in legal procedure." The courtroom tittered again. But what Judge Harper didn't know was that the eccentric billionaire before her was far from unprepared. Behind his fumbling demeanor and messy papers, Malik Jackson was setting a trap that would soon leave everyone in the courtroom, especially her stun. 6 months earlier, the Jackson Tech lab hummed with energy, bright lights glinting off polished metal surfaces. Malik Jackson and Tara Nguyen bent over a workbench, a device no larger than a shoebox sitting between them. It looked unremarkable, just a metal case with a few wires, but both knew it could change the world. "Run the test again," Malik said, his eyes fixed on the device. Tara tapped her tablet, and the device glowed blue along its edges. "Power output holding at 98% efficiency," she reported, her eyes wide. "3 times better than anything on the market." Malik didn't smile, he rarely did when working, but a spark lit his eyes. "If this works at scale," he said, "we could power a house for a month with something the size of a brick, or a car for 1,000 miles. "We did it," Tara whispered. "We actually did it." Just then Malik's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and frowned. "Nathan Carver is here," he said. Tara's smile vanished. "Nathan Carver, CEO of Omnitech. Why wants to talk about a partnership?" Malik sighed. "Cover this up. I'll meet him in the conference room." "Are you sure that's wise?" Tara asked, her voice tense. "Omnitech has stolen designs before." "Let me handle it," Malik said, heading for the door. "Just hide everything important." Nathan Carver was tall and polished, with perfect teeth and a handshake that was just too firm. "Malik, thanks for seeing me," he boomed, his voice filling the room. 2 assistants flanked him, tablets in hand. "What can I do for you?" Malik asked, skipping pleasantries. "I'll get right to it," Carver said. "Omnitech wants to partner with you on energy storage. We have the manufacturing capabilities you lack, and you have the creative spark our engineers sometimes miss." Malik nodded slowly. "Interesting. What did you have in mind?" "A tour today, then we'll talk details. I'd love to see what you're working on." Carver set his smile sharp like a shark's. Malik considered. "A quick tour then, but some areas are off limits. Ongoing research." Of course," Carver agreed quickly. As they walked through the facility, Malik noticed Carver lingering in certain areas, his eyes scanning every detail. Once Malik could have sworn he saw one of Carver's assistants snap a quick photo when they thought no one was looking. When they reached the main lab doors, Malik stopped. "This area is restricted," he said. Carver nodded, but Malik caught a flash of disappointment in his eyes. "Well, I've seen enough to know we could do great things together," Carver said, extending his hand. "I'll have my people call your people." After Carver left, Malik went straight to security. "I want all footage of Carver's visit," he told the head of security. "Every second." That night, Malik replayed the footage in his office. There it was, Carver's assistant taking photos when Malik's back was turned. Carver himself peering through a window into the restricted lab when he thought no one was watching. "I knew it," Malik muttered. 2 months later, Tara burst into Malik's office, her face flushed with anger. "Omnitech just filed a patent," she said, slapping a printout on his desk. "For an energy storage device using our nano-coating technology. They stole it, Malik. They stole our design." Malik picked up the papers, scanning them calmly, too calmly. "You don't seem surprised," Tara said, studying his face. "I'm not," Malik replied, leaning back in his chair. "Carver never called about that partnership. I knew something was up." "We have to fight this," Tara exclaimed. "Call the lawyers, I already talked to them," Malik said, standing and walking to the window. "They say it'll be tough to prove. Carver was careful, so we just give up." Tara couldn't believe her ears. "I didn't say that," Malik said, turning to her, a strange light in his eyes. "I'm going to handle this myself." Tara's jaw dropped. "You mean personally, in court?" "Yes, but you're not a lawyer." "No," Malik agreed. "I'm not." In the weeks that followed, Malik's behavior grew increasingly odd. He canceled meetings, vanished for hours. Once Tara found him in his office at midnight, surrounded by legal textbooks, scribbling notes in the margins. "This is crazy," she said, picking up a book on patent law. "We have a legal team for this. They'll expect a legal team, Malik replied without looking up. They won't expect me. That's because this is a terrible idea. Carver has the best lawyers money can buy. Malik finally looked up, his eyes tired but determined. Sometimes you have to do things yourself, Tara. He turned his notebook toward her. The pages were filled with precise notes, diagrams, and what looked like a timeline. I know exactly what I'm doing, he said quietly. Trust me. But as Tara looked at the resolute face of her boss, she couldn't help but worry that this time his legendary confidence might be his undoing. The first day of the trial spilled into the afternoon, and the air in courtroom 7 crackled with tension. Edward Langston, Omnitech's lead attorney, stood tall before the bench, his laser pointer slicing through the air as it highlighted a large screen displaying side-by-side comparisons of both companies' battery designs. As you can clearly see, Your Honor, Langston said, his voice dripping with assurance, the similarities are undeniable. The internal structure, the cooling system, even the nanocoating, they're identical. Judge Eleanor Harper nodded from her elevated bench, her sharp eyes tracking the presentation. Continue, Mr. Langston. Omnitech invested millions in this technology. Langston pressed on, clicking to the next slide. Years of research culminated in this breakthrough. Then, mere weeks after we filed our patent, Mr. Jackson's company unveiled an identical product. Whispers buzzed through the gallery. Reporters scribbled furiously, sensing a story that would dominate tech headlines. We'd like to call our first witness, Langston announced. Dr. James Holt, Omnitech's head of research and development. A thin man with wire-rimmed glasses shuffled to the stand, adjusting his tie nervously as he was sworn in. Dr. Holt Langston began pacing smoothly. Please explain your role in developing this battery technology. I led the team that developed the nanocoating, Holt said, his voice gaining confidence. It's the key innovation that allows for higher energy density and faster charging. And when did you begin this work? Langston asked, his tone measured. About 18 months ago, Holt replied firmly. Judge Harper listened closely, her engineering background from her college days sharpening her interest in the technical details. Langston was adept distilling complex concepts into clear points, and she found herself impressed by both the attorney and the technology. She glanced at Malik Jackson from time to time, expecting some reaction, but he remained strangely composed, jotting notes. Once she caught him staring at a ceiling tile, seemingly lost in thought. Mr. Jackson, she cut in, her voice sharp. Are you following? Malik blinked, focusing on her. Yes, Your Honor, just considering the testimony. She frowned. Well, consider it more actively, please. This is your case. A few chuckles rippled through the gallery. Harper allowed herself a small smile. She'd dealt with overconfident CEOs before, but most at least pretended to engage with the proceedings. Langston pressed forward, calling a patent expert who outlined the filing process and timeline, bolstering Omnitech's claim. As you can see, the expert concluded Omnitech's filing predates any public mention of similar technology from Mr. Jackson's company. Harper noticed Malik scribbling in his notebook. For a brief moment, she wondered what strategy, if any, he was crafting. Then she dismissed the thought. He was clearly in over his head. Langston, sensing the momentum, unveiled a battery prototype with a theatrical flourish, pulling away a cloth. This is the working prototype we developed before filing the patent, he explained, created entirely by Omnitech's team. In the gallery, Tara Nguyen stiffened, leaning forward to study the device. Her eyes narrowed in recognition. Judge Harper caught the young woman's reaction and made a mental note. Something about that prototype had triggered a response. Would you like to examine the device, Your Honor? Langston offered. Thank you, Mr. Langston. Harper took the prototype, turning it carefully in her hands. Despite her legal career, her engineering roots made her appreciate the design's sleek efficiency. She returned it, admitting to herself it was impressive. Langston smiled, sensing the tide turning in his favor. We'd like to call our final witness of the day, he said. Nathan Carver, CEO of Omnitech. The tall, polished man Malik had met months ago strode confidently to the stand. After being sworn in, he sat with impeccable posture, exuding charisma. Mr. Carver, Langston began, please tell the court about your company's commitment to innovation. Carver launched into a well-rehearsed speech about Omnitech's history of breakthroughs. Harper listened occasionally, glancing at Malik to gauge his reaction. To her surprise, Malik was now fully attentive, watching Carver with a piercing intensity that felt almost predatory. For the first time, she felt a flicker of unease. Was there more to Jackson's approach than she'd assumed? Did you have any contact with Mr. Jackson or his company prior to developing this technology? Langston asked. Minimal, Carver replied smoothly. We had one brief meeting about a potential collaboration, but nothing came of it. Harper noticed a faint smile flicker across Malik's face. When Carver finished, Langston turned to the bench. Your Honor, Mr. Jackson now has the opportunity to cross-examine our witness. Harper looked at Malik. Mr. Jackson, would you like to question Mr. Carver? Malik stood slowly. Not at this time, Your Honor. I'll reserve my questions for later. Carver looked surprised, then relieved, shooting Malik a triumphant glance as he stepped down. Harper couldn't mask her disappointment. She'd expected at least some attempt at a defense. Very well, she said. Mr. Langston, proceed. Your Honor, Langston said, his confidence unshaken. We've presented clear evidence that Omnitech developed and patented this technology first. Mr. Jackson's company clearly copied our client's innovative design. The evidence speaks for itself. Harper nodded, finding herself leaning toward Langston's argument. The case seemed clear-cut. Mr. Jackson, she said, turning to the billionaire, you'll have your chance to present your defense tomorrow. I suggest you prepare more thoroughly than you have today. Malik looked up from his notebook. I appreciate your concern, Your Honor. Something in his tone made Harper pause, a quiet assurance that clashed with his apparent vulnerability. As she prepared to adjourn, she noticed Malik staring at that same spot on the wall again. Mr. Jackson, are you even paying attention? She asked, her voice sharp. He turned to her, eyes clear. Always, Your Honor. More than you might think. For reasons she couldn't pinpoint, Harper felt a chill. Perhaps there was more to Malik Jackson than she'd assumed. Court is adjourned until 9 Moashur tomorrow morning, she announced, banging her gavel. As the room cleared, Langston passed Malik, barely concealing a smug smile. Better luck tomorrow, Jackson, he said softly, though I doubt luck will be enough. Malik nodded. See you tomorrow, Langston. In the hallway, reporters swarmed both men. Mr. Jackson, will you hire an attorney now? One shouted. Mr. Langston, is this case as clear-cut as it seems? Another called. Malik pushed through without responding. Tara caught up to him at the courthouse steps. That was brutal, she said. Carver lied under oath about your meeting. I noticed, Malik replied calmly. And that prototype, it was our design. They just changed the outer casing. I know. Malik glanced back at the courthouse, his expression unreadable. I'm about to do something about it. 20 minutes later, they sat in a rented office across from the courthouse. Malik had transformed it into a temporary war room with computers, whiteboards, and boxes of files. What are we doing here? Tara asked, watching Malik boot up a laptop. Preparing, he answered. I need you to access our building security logs from the day Carver visited. The security logs. Why? Just trust me. While Tara worked, Malik made a phone call. It's me, he said to the person on the other end. Are you ready for tomorrow? He listened, then nodded. Good. Timing is critical. Tara looked up from her computer. I have the logs. Now, what find all footage of Carver and his team? I want every second they were in our building. For hours, they sifted through security videos. Tara gasped when she spotted what Malik was looking for. There, she pointed at the screen. Carver's assistant snapping photos in the restricted area. Malik nodded. And here, he said, fast-forwarding to another clip, Carver himself peering through the lab window after being told the area was off limits. This proves they were spying, Tara said, her voice rising with excitement. But is it enough to win the case? Not by itself, Malik admitted. He pulled out his phone and sent a text. Within minutes, it buzzed with a response. Malik smiled as he read it. What? Tara asked. Let's just say I've been working on this case longer than Carver realizes. As midnight approached, Malik was still at it, assembling a small electronic device on the desk. What's that? Tara asked, stifling a yawn. A demonstration, Malik replied. For tomorrow. Shouldn't you be working on your legal arguments instead? Malik looked up, a glint in his eye. Sometimes the best legal argument isn't a legal argument at all. Morning arrived too soon. Back in the courtroom, Judge Harper called the session to order. Mr. Jackson, are you ready to present your defense? She asked, bracing for the same fumbling performance. Malik stood. Actually, Your Honor, I'd like to request a one-day recess. Murmurs of surprise swept through the courtroom. Harper frowned. A recess. On what grounds I need to reconsider my approach? Malik said, his voice tinged with defeat. Given the strong case against me. More whispers. Langston couldn't hide a triumphant smirk. Harper studied Malik's face. Was he conceding, or was this part of some hidden plan? Your Honor, Langston interjected, we object to this delay. Mr. Jackson had ample time to prepare his defense. I understand, Malik said quickly, but after yesterday's testimony, I realize I may need professional assistance. Laughter rippled through the gallery. Harper permitted herself a small smile. So he was finally admitting he needed a lawyer. While I'm tempted to deny your request, Mr. Jackson, she said, I'll grant a one-day recess. But don't waste our time tomorrow. Thank you, Your Honor, Malik said, bowing his head slightly. As the courtroom emptied, Langston approached him. Finally realized you're out of your depth, he asked. Something like that, Malik replied. Back at their temporary office, Tara paced anxiously. I don't understand. Why ask for a delay when we spent all night preparing? Because Malik explained, typing rapidly on his laptop. I want them overconfident. Carver thinks I'm throwing in the towel. But what are we actually doing today, Tara demanded. Two things, Malik said, not looking up. First, we're finishing this. He pointed to the electronic device they'd worked on last night. And second, we're meeting someone important. Later that afternoon, a woman arrived at their office. She was in her early 40s with dark hair pulled back tightly, her expression taut with nerves. Ms. Coleman, Malik greeted her. Thank you for coming. I'm risking my career being here, the woman said quietly. I know, Malik replied, but it's the right thing to do. Tara looked puzzled. Who is she, Aisha Coleman? Malik explained. Until last week, she was Omnitech's head of research and development. Tara's eyes widened. Wait, not Dr. Holt. Holt was promoted after I left, Aisha said. I couldn't stay after what Carver asked us to do. For the next hour, Malik and Aisha spoke in hushed tones while Tara finalized their electronic demonstration. As evening fell, Malik seemed more assured than ever. Are you sure about this, Tara asked as they packed up. It's unorthodox even for you. Malik smiled, his eyes catching the glow of his computer screen. Sometimes innovation isn't just about technology. That night, while Carver and Langston toasted their seemingly assured victory with expensive whiskey, Malik made one final preparation for the next day's court session, a simple cardboard box that would change everything. Morning broke with a buzz of anticipation outside the San Francisco Federal Building. News of Malik Jackson's unexpected recess request had spread like wildfire, fueling speculation that he was on the verge of surrender. Reporters crowded the courthouse steps, cameras flashing as they shouted questions. Mr. Jackson, have you hired an attorney? One called. Will you settle with Omnitech? Another pressed. Malik strode through the throng, a simple cardboard box tucked under his arm, his face unreadable. Tara Nguyen followed close behind, her calm exterior, masking a knot of nerves. Inside courtroom 7, the gallery was packed. Nathan Carver sat confidently at the plaintiff's table, whispering with Edward Langston, both eyeing Malik's box with curiosity. What's he up to now? Carver muttered. Probably his surrender terms, Langston replied with a smirk. Judge Eleanor Harper entered, and the room stood as she took her seat. She noticed Malik looked different today. Gone was the fumbling, distracted demeanor. He stood tall, his eyes sharp and focused. Court is now in session, she announced. Mr. Jackson, yesterday you requested time to reconsider your approach. Have you decided to seek legal counsel? No, Your Honor. Malik replied, his voice firm. I'll continue representing myself. Harper sighed, her exasperation clear. Very well. Are you ready to present your defense? I am, Your Honor. But first I'd like to call a surprise witness. A murmur swept through the courtroom. Langston leapt to his feet. Objection. We received no notice of additional witnesses. Harper frowned. Mr. Jackson, this isn't a television drama. That's not how court proceedings work. I understand, Your Honor. Malik said calmly, but these are exceptional circumstances. My witness only came forward yesterday after seeing Omnitech's testimony. Harper studied Malik's face. There was a quiet confidence in him today, a stark contrast to his earlier performance. This better be good, she warned. Who is this witness, Aisha Coleman, former head of research and development at Omnitech? The name sent a visible shock through the Omnitech team. Carver's face paled. Langston stood again, his composure slipping. Objection: Ms. Coleman is bound by a confidentiality agreement with Omnitech. She cannot testify about company matters. That's not entirely accurate, Malik countered. Ms. Coleman's agreement has exceptions for illegal activity, which is precisely what she wishes to address. The room fell silent. Harper leaned forward, her interest piqued despite herself. Mr. Langston, your objection is noted but overruled. I'll allow the witness. She turned to Malik. This better be relevant, Mr. Jackson. It is, Your Honor. Thank you. A court officer opened the door, and Aisha Coleman entered. She looked nervous but resolute as she took the oath and settled into the witness stand. Ms. Coleman, Malik began, until recently. What was your position at Omnitech? I was head of research and development for 8 years. She replied, her voice steady despite her tension. And why did you leave? Aisha took a deep breath. I resigned last week due to ethical concerns about the battery technology at issue in this case. Another murmur rippled through the courtroom. Carver whispered urgently to Langston, who shook his head slightly. Could you elaborate on those concerns? Malik asked. The technology wasn't developed by Omnitech, Aisha stated clearly. We were ordered to reverse engineer Mr. Jackson's prototype after Mr. Carver visited his facility. The courtroom erupted. Harper banged her gavel repeatedly. Order, order in the court. When silence returned, Langston was on his feet, his face flushed. Your Honor, these are baseless accusations. Where is the proof? An excellent question, Harper agreed, turning to Malik. Do you have evidence to support this testimony? I do, Your Honor. Malik finally opened his cardboard box, removing a laptop and a small device. Ms. Coleman, he continued, did Mr. Carver specifically instruct your team to copy my design? Yes, she answered firmly. After his visit to your facility, he called an emergency meeting. He showed us photos his assistant had taken and told us to recreate the technology as quickly as possible. Carver's face had gone from pale to red. He scribbled something and pushed it toward Langston. And what about Dr. Holt, who testified yesterday? Malik asked. James was promoted to my position after I questioned the ethics of what we were doing, Aisha explained. He was willing to go along with Carver's plan. Langston stood again. Your Honor, this is hearsay and speculation, is it? Malik asked calmly. He connected his laptop to the courtroom's display system. With the court's permission, I'd like to show some evidence. Harper nodded, now fully engaged. Proceed, Mr. Jackson. The screen lit up with security footage from Jackson Tech's facility, clearly showing Carver's assistant taking photos in restricted areas, and Carver himself peering through windows he'd been told were off limits. This proves nothing, Langston argued. Looking isn't stealing. Perhaps not, Malik agreed, but this might be more convincing. He clicked to the next file, emails between Carver and Aisha, discussing how to repurpose Jackson's design. Langston stared at the screen, stunned. Where did you get those? Ms. Coleman provided them, Malik explained along with these. The next images showed side-by-side comparisons of internal components, Jackson's original designs and Omnitech's copies. They were identical. Harper's expression had shifted her skepticism, giving way to growing shock as the evidence mounted. Your Honor, Malik said there's more. Ms. Coleman has provided internal memos showing Omnitech had no similar technology and development before Carver's visit to my facility. Their entire claim is fraudulent. Carver could no longer contain himself. This is a setup, he shouted, rising from his chair. You can't believe this, Mr. Carver, Harper warned, her voice icy. Control yourself, or I'll have you removed. The atmosphere in the courtroom had transformed. Now it was Langston who looked flustered, while Malik appeared calm and in control. Harper turned to Aisha. Ms. Coleman, you understand the seriousness of your testimony. You're accusing Omnitech of corporate espionage and fraud. I do, Your Honor, Aisha replied. That's why I resigned. I couldn't be part of it anymore. As the morning session continued, Harper found herself watching Malik with new eyes. The bumbling man from yesterday was gone, replaced by someone precise and methodical who had apparently planned this moment from the start. Had it all been an act? Had he deliberately appeared unprepared to lull Omnitech into complacency? Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. Judge Eleanor Harper was no longer laughing at Malik Jackson. Ms. Coleman Malik continued, "Could you tell the court exactly what happened after Mr. Carver returned from his visit to my facility?" Aisha sat straight, her hands folded in her lap. She'd been Omnitech's star scientist for nearly a decade. Now she was their worst nightmare. Mr. Carver called an emergency meeting that afternoon, she began. He was extremely excited. He showed us photos his assistant had taken secretly during the tour and said he'd seen a goldmine of ideas. Carver's face darkened. He slid a note to Langston, who shook his head slightly. "Did he specifically mention my energy storage technology?" Malik asked. "Yes. He was particularly interested in the nanocoating. He said it was the key to making batteries hold more power for longer." "And what did he ask your team to do?" "He told us to drop everything else and focus on recreating what he'd seen. His exact words were, 'I want this technology before Jackson can patent it.'" A murmur swept through the courtroom. Harper leaned forward, completely absorbed. This was not what she'd expected when the day began. "Did you raise any concerns about this directive?" Malik continued. Aisha nodded. "I told Mr. Carver that what he was suggesting sounded like corporate espionage. I proposed pursuing a legitimate partnership instead." "And how did he respond?" "He said, and I quote, 'Why pay for what we can take for free?'" Another ripple of reaction spread through the gallery. Carver shouted, "That's a lie, she's making this up." Mr. Carver, Harper snapped her voice like a whip. "One more outburst and I'll have you removed from my courtroom." Malik remained unfazed, his focus unwavering. "Ms. Coleman," he said, "do you have any evidence to support your testimony?" "Yes," she replied. "I kept notes from all our meetings. I also saved emails and text messages where these directives were given." "Your Honor," Malik addressed the judge, "I'd like to enter these documents into evidence." He handed a folder to the court clerk, who passed it to Harper. She opened it, her expression growing more serious with each page. Langston stood, his voice strained. "Your Honor, these documents should be inadmissible. They contain proprietary Omnitech information that Ms. Coleman had no right to remove." Actually, Malik countered, according to Omnitech's own employment contract, which I've included in that folder, employees are protected and obligated to report potential illegal activities. Ms. Coleman was acting within her rights. Harper nodded. "I'm inclined to agree with Mr. Jackson. The documents are admitted." Langston sat heavily, looking shaken. Carver whispered urgently to an assistant, who quickly left the courtroom. "Ms. Coleman," Malik continued, "what happened after you expressed these concerns?" "I was gradually sidelined," Aisha said. "Tasks were reassigned. Then 2 weeks ago, James Holt was promoted to my position, and I was transferred to another department. Did that surprise you?" "No, I'd already started looking for another job because I couldn't ethically continue at Omnitech. When they transferred me, I resigned immediately." "One final question," Malik said. "Did Omnitech have any similar energy storage technology in development before Carver's visit to my facility?" "No," Aisha stated firmly. "We were working on entirely different approaches. Our research was at least 2 years away from anything close to your design." "Thank you, Ms. Coleman." Malik turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to present one more piece of evidence before Mr. Langston cross-examines the witness." Harper nodded. "Proceed." Malik placed his small electronic device on the evidence table. "This is a demonstration unit I created to illustrate how Omnitech's supposedly original design is actually a copy of mine." He activated the device, which projected a holographic display showing both designs layer by layer. As each component appeared, the identical nature of the technologies became undeniable. "As you can see," Malik explained, "even the internal arrangement of components is identical. The chances of two teams independently creating such similar designs are essentially zero." The courtroom fell silent, the evidence overwhelming. "Your Honor," Langston said, rising slowly, "we request a brief recess to consult with our client." Harper checked her watch. "We'll break for lunch. Court will reconvene at 1 sur." As the gallery emptied, Tara rushed to Malik's side. "That was incredible," she whispered. "Did you see Carver's face?" Malik nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "We're not done yet." In the hallway, reporters swarmed both sides. Langston pushed through without comment, Carver close behind a security guard blocking cameras. "Mr. Jackson, was your confused performance yesterday?" an actor reporter shouted. Malik smiled faintly. No comment. In a private conference room, Langston faced Carver across the table. "This is bad, Nathan. Really bad. She's lying, Carver insisted, pacing. It's her word against mine. It's her word plus emails, texts, and documents against yours, Langston corrected. Not to mention the visual evidence of the copy technology. We need to settle now. No, Carver snapped. I won't give him the satisfaction. You might not have a choice, Langston warned. If this continues, we're looking at more than losing a patent case. This could become a criminal matter. Carver stopped pacing, his face paling. What are you saying? I'm saying corporate espionage is a crime. So is perjury, which you committed yesterday when you downplayed your meeting with Jackson. Carver's shoulders slumped, the reality sinking in. Meanwhile, in another conference room, Judge Harper sat alone reviewing the morning's evidence. 30 years on the bench had honed her ability to spot liars, and Aisha Coleman was telling the truth. The emails and documents corroborated her testimony perfectly. Harper found herself reassessing Malik Jackson. She dismissed him as an arrogant amateur, but now she wondered if she'd been the one outplayed. His strategy, appearing unprepared while amassing devastating evidence, was brilliant. When court reconvened, the tension was palpable. Langston approached Malik before Harper returned. My client is willing to discuss settlement terms, he said quietly. I'm not interested in settling, Malik replied. Don't be stubborn. We can make this go away quietly. That's not why I'm here. Before Langston could respond, Harper entered and everyone stood. Before we continue, she announced, I want to clarify something. Ms. Coleman, your testimony suggests not just patent infringement, but potentially criminal activity. Do you understand the seriousness of these allegations? I do, Your Honor, Aisha replied. That's why I came forward. It was the right thing to do. Harper nodded. Mr. Langston, you may cross-examine the witness. Langston approached the stand, his earlier confidence gone. Ms. Coleman, isn't it true that you were passed over for promotion several times at Omnitech? No, she replied calmly. I was offered promotions twice and declined them to stay in research. And you're not bitter about Mr. Holt's promotion? I was relieved. It meant I was no longer responsible for a project I believe was unethical. Langston tried several more angles, but Aisha remained unshaken, her testimony clear and consistent. When he finally sat down, Harper turned to Malik. Do you have any more witnesses, Mr. Jackson? No, Your Honor. Ms. Coleman's testimony and the evidence presented speak for themselves. Harper nodded thoughtfully. They certainly did. As the afternoon session resumed in courtroom 7, the air was thick with anticipation. The gallery, packed with reporters and onlookers, buzzed with speculation about Malik Jackson's stunning performance that morning. Nathan Carver, once the picture of confidence, now sat at the plaintiff's table with a tightened jaw, his eyes darting nervously to Edward Langston, who shuffled papers in a vain attempt to regain control. Malik, by contrast, sat calmly at his table. His notes neatly arranged, a faint glint of determination in his eyes. Tara Nguyen in the gallery watched with bated breath, her earlier doubts about Malik's strategy replaced by awe. Judge Eleanor Harper took her seat, her expression unreadable, but her attention razor-sharp. Mr. Jackson, she said, you've presented a compelling case so far. Do you have anything further to add to your defense? Malik rose, his posture commanding. Your Honor, I'd now like to address the legal remedy I'm seeking. Harper nodded, her curiosity evident. Proceed, Mr. Jackson. Malik stepped to the center of the courtroom, no longer the fumbling figure from the trial's opening day. His voice was clear and measured, carrying the weight of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Based on the evidence presented, he began, I'm not just asking for Omnitech's patent to be invalidated. I'm requesting a specific legal remedy outlined in Section 47B of the Technological Innovation Protection Act of 2018. A puzzled murmur spread through the courtroom. Langston's face twisted in confusion, and even Harper's eyebrows rose slightly. Section 47B of that act, Malik continued, states that in cases where corporate espionage is proven, the court may issue an order preventing the offending party from developing similar technology for up to 5 years. The room fell silent, the gravity of Malik's request sinking in. Harper leaned forward, her interest fully captured. Mr. Jackson, she said, I'm familiar with patent law, but I don't recall that specific provision. It's relatively obscure, Your Honor. Malik acknowledged. It was added as an amendment during the bill's final passage. Few cases have invoked it. He handed a document to the court clerk, who passed it to Harper. She studied it carefully, her expression shifting as she read. He's right, she murmured almost to herself. Langston jumped to his feet, his voice strained. Your Honor, this is outrageous. Such a remedy would effectively lock Omnitech out of an entire market segment. That's precisely the point, Malik responded calmly. The law was designed to impose serious consequences for corporate espionage. Otherwise, companies would simply treat legal penalties as a cost of doing business. Harper nodded slightly, her eyes still on the statute. The language is clear, she admitted. In cases of proven corporate espionage related to technological innovation, the court may issue a development prohibition order. Carver whispered frantically to Langston, who looked increasingly distressed. Your Honor, Langston said we need time to review this statute and prepare a response. That seems reasonable, Harper agreed. We'll adjourn for today and reconvene tomorrow morning. She turned to Malik. I must say, Mr. Jackson, I'm impressed by your knowledge of patent law. Thank you, Your Honor. Malik replied with a small smile. As the courtroom began to clear, Langston approached Malik again, his tone almost pleading. Be reasonable, Jackson. A 5-year ban would devastate Omnitech's energy division. You should have thought of that before stealing my technology, Malik said simply. In the gallery, Tara watched the exchange, her eyes wide with amazement. As Malik joined her, she couldn't contain herself. How did you find that law, she whispered. I've never heard of it, because most lawyers haven't either, Malik explained. I spent weeks researching obscure patent statutes. When I found this one, I knew it was perfect. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Mr. Jackson, is it true you're seeking to ban Omnitech from the energy storage market? One shouted. Was your confused act a strategy to catch them off guard? Another pressed. Malik pushed through, repeating no comment. Back at their temporary office, Tara's excitement bubbled over. You were incredible in there. Carver looked like he was going to collapse when you mentioned that law. Malik allowed himself a faint smile. The case isn't over yet. His phone buzzed with a text, and his expression turned serious. What is it? Tara asked. Carver's people have been calling Aisha Coleman, Malik said, threatening her. That's witness intimidation, Tara exclaimed. We should tell the judge. We will, Malik assured her. Tomorrow. Meanwhile, at Omnitech's legal offices, Carver raged at his team. How could you not know about this law, he demanded, pacing the conference room. I pay you millions for exactly this kind of information. Langston remained calm, though his patience was wearing thin. It's an obscure provision rarely invoked. The question now is how to respond. We fight it, obviously, Carver snapped. I'm not sure that's wise, Langston cautioned. The evidence against us is substantial. So you're giving up, Carver's voice rose. I'm being realistic. Jackson has outmaneuvered us at every turn. First, he acted incompetent to lower our guard. Then he produced a star witness we never anticipated. Now he's found a legal angle that could cripple our business. Carver collapsed into a chair, the weight of their situation finally hitting him. What are our options, he asked, his voice quieter. We could settle, Langston suggested. Offer Jackson a substantial payment and a formal apology. Never, Carver spat. I won't give him the satisfaction. Then our only option is to attack the witness, Langston said grimly. Discredit Aisha Coleman. Suggest she stole the documents for personal gain. Imply she's working with Jackson. Will that work? Carver asked. Langston sighed. Probably not. But it's all we have left. The next morning, courtroom 7 was even more crowded, the news of Malik's bold legal maneuver, drawing tech reporters from across the globe. Harper called the court to order. Before we continue, she said, I've reviewed the statute Mr. Jackson cited. It is indeed applicable, provided the evidence of corporate espionage meets the legal standard. She turned to Langston. Counsel, do you wish to respond to Mr. Jackson's request for a development prohibition order? Langston stood. Yes, Your Honor. We challenge the credibility of Ms. Coleman's testimony and the authenticity of the documents she provided. On what grounds? Harper asked, her tone skeptical. We believe Ms. Coleman may have altered these documents after leaving Omnitech, possibly in collaboration with Mr. Jackson. Harper frowned, her disapproval clear. That's a serious allegation. Do you have evidence? We're prepared to present technical analysis suggesting the documents were modified recently, Langston claimed. Malik rose calmly. Your Honor, I anticipated this attack on Ms. Coleman's character. That's why I had the original electronic documents verified by an independent forensic expert. He handed another file to the court clerk. This report confirms the documents are genuine and unaltered. Additionally, I must inform the court that Ms. Coleman has received threatening calls from Omnitech representatives since her testimony yesterday. Harper's expression darkened. Is that so, Mr. Langston? Does your client know that witness intimidation is a serious offense? Langston paled. Your Honor, if such calls were made, they were not authorized by Omnitech's management or legal team. Harper's gaze suggested she wasn't convinced. As the morning proceeded, she watched Malik with growing respect. The man who had stumbled through his opening statements was now articulating complex legal arguments with precision, and she found herself nodding along, impressed despite herself. Your Honor, Langston said, attempting to salvage their case, we request permission to present a technical expert who will testify that Omnitech's design, while similar to Mr. Jackson's, contains significant differences. Harper considered this. I'll allow it. Call your witness. A tall man with a neat beard and glasses approached the stand. After being sworn in, he introduced himself as Dr. Paul Grayson, Chief Technical Officer at Cambridge Energy Systems. Dr. Grayson Langston began, you've examined both companies' battery designs. In your expert opinion, could Omnitech have developed their technology independently? Yes, Grayson replied confidently. While there are similarities, I noted several distinct engineering choices in Omnitech's implementation. Could you elaborate? Langston asked, looking relieved. Certainly. The cooling system configuration, for instance, uses a different arrangement of channels, and the casing material contains proprietary compounds not present in Mr. Jackson's design. Harper took detailed notes, her earlier bias replaced by careful neutrality. So in your professional opinion, Langston concluded these designs could have been developed independently. It's certainly possible, Grayson agreed. Similar problems often lead to similar solutions in engineering. Thank you, Doctor. Langston turned to Malik. Your witness. The courtroom tensed as Malik approached the stand. Instead of attacking Grayson directly, he smiled politely. Doctor, Grayson, what's the primary innovation that makes both these battery designs so efficient? The nano-coating on the electrode surfaces, Grayson replied promptly. And this coating is applied in several distinct layers, correct? Yes, that's right. Malik nodded. Could you describe the specific sequence of these layers? Grayson shifted slightly, looking uncomfortable. Well, both designs use a graphene-based layer, followed by a titanium composite, then a proprietary ceramic material. Identical proprietary materials, Malik asked, his tone innocent. Well, yes, surprisingly similar, Grayson admitted. And what are the odds of two companies independently developing identical proprietary materials in identical layering sequences? Grayson hesitated. It would be highly unlikely. Malik continued asking technical questions that gradually led Grayson into contradicting his own testimony. With each answer, the expert appeared more trapped. Let me be direct, Dr. Malik finally said. The cooling system and casing differences you mentioned aren't those merely cosmetic changes that don't affect the core technology. After a long pause, Grayson sighed. Yes, the fundamental innovation, the nano-coating, is essentially identical in both designs. From the plaintiff's table, Carver glared at his expert. No further questions, Malik said, returning to his seat. Langston approached the bench, his voice strained. Your Honor, we'd like to call Mr. Carver to testify directly. Harper nodded. Proceed. Carver took the stand, straightening his tie to project confidence despite his visible unease. After being sworn in, he sat rigidly. Mr. Carver, Langston began. Did you instruct your team to copy Mr. Jackson's technology? Absolutely not, Carver stated firmly. I visited his facility as a potential partner. When that didn't work out, I directed our existing research team to continue their work on energy storage solutions. And was Omnitech already developing similar technology? Yes. We'd been researching advanced battery designs for years. The timing of our breakthrough shortly after my visit to Jackson Tech was coincidental. Langston nodded. Ms. Coleman claims you showed photos from your visit and ordered the team to copy Mr. Jackson's design. How do you respond? That's completely false, Carver declared. Ms. Coleman was a disgruntled employee who became difficult after being passed over for promotion. These accusations are her way of retaliating. Harper watched Carver closely, noting his polished delivery. He was a practiced witness, well coached by his legal team. No further questions, Langston said, sitting down. The courtroom fell silent as Malik stood for cross-examination. He approached Carver slowly, his demeanor calm but focused. Mr. Carver, you testified that Omnitech was already developing similar technology before your visit to my facility, correct? Yes, Carver replied, his voice steady. Could you explain the basic principles of your pre-existing research? Carver hesitated. We were exploring various nanocoatings for battery electrodes. Could you be more specific about the composition of these coatings? I'm not a technical person, Carver evaded. I rely on my research team for those details. Yet you're the CEO who signed off on the patent application, Malik noted. Surely you understood what you were patenting. Carver's confidence wavered slightly. Malik shifted gears. During your visit to my facility, did you take any photos? No. Did anyone in your team take photos? Not to my knowledge. Malik nodded thoughtfully. He walked to his table and picked up a folder. Your Honor, I'd like to enter this security footage as evidence. He played a clip clearly showing Carver's assistant photographing restricted areas. Perhaps your memory needs refreshing, Malik suggested. Carver's face flushed. I wasn't aware my assistant was taking photos. Really? Because in this next clip, you can be seen looking directly at her while she does it. The courtroom murmured as the footage played. Malik continued methodically his questions, boxing Carver into a corner. Each answer forced Carver to contradict either his testimony or the documented evidence. Finally, Malik delivered his coup de grace. Mr. Carver, are you familiar with this notebook? He held up a small leather-bound journal. Carver's eyes widened. Where did you get that? Ms. Coleman provided it. It's your personal notebook, isn't it? Yes, but it was stolen from my office. Actually, Malik corrected, Ms. Coleman was asked to clean out your office after a water leak. This was among the items she was instructed to salvage. Malik opened the notebook to a marked page. Would you please read this entry dated the day after your visit to my facility? Carver remained silent. If you prefer, I can read it, Malik offered. He turned to Harper. Your Honor, may I? Harper nodded, engrossed. Saw Jackson's new battery tech today? Malik read aloud. Revolutionary nanocoating. Need to fast-track our version before he patents it. Assign Coleman's team to reverse engineer ASAP. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Carver's face drained of color. No further questions, Malik said quietly. As Carver returned to his seat, his shoulders slumped. Harper checked her watch. We'll take a 15-minute recess, she announced. When we return, I'd like to see both parties in my chambers. As people filed out, reporters rushed to file updates. Headlines were already circulating. Jackson's legal genius stuns court. In the hallway, Langston cornered Carver. This is a disaster, he hissed. We need to settle immediately. It's too late for that, Carver muttered, loosening his tie. He's going for blood. Inside her chambers, Harper sat behind her desk, removing her glasses and rubbing the bridge of her nose. 30 years on the bench, and she'd rarely seen such a reversal. When Malik and Langston entered, she gestured to the chairs. Please sit. Carver remained standing, too agitated to settle. I've called you here because this case has taken an extraordinary turn, Harper began. Mr. Langston, given the evidence, I strongly suggest your client consider settlement options. Langston nodded grimly. We're prepared to discuss terms, Your Honor. I'm not, Carver cut in. This isn't over. Harper fixed him with a stern gaze. Mr. Carver, you should understand your position. The evidence against you is overwhelming. If I rule against Omnitech, which seems increasingly likely, you face not only the loss of the patent, but a 5-year market ban. Additionally, this could trigger criminal investigations. Carver paled but remained defiant. There are appeals courts. Yes, Harper agreed, and they generally defer to the trial court's findings of fact. The facts here are damning. She turned to Malik. Mr. Jackson, would you be open to settlement discussions? Malik considered this. I came here for justice, not money. The 5-year development ban is non-negotiable, Carver huffed. That's unreasonable. What's unreasonable, Malik said calmly, is stealing someone else's work and then suing them for it. Harper leaned back, studying Malik with newfound respect. Then she did something unexpected. Mr. Jackson, she said, her tone softening, I owe you an apology. Malik looked surprised, as did Langston. I made assumptions about you when this trial began, she continued. I thought you were arrogant and unprepared. I was wrong and my behavior was unprofessional. Malik nodded, accepting her words. Harper hesitated, then added, I feel I should explain something. She glanced at Carver and Langston. Would you gentlemen excuse us for a moment? After they left, Harper rose and walked to her window, looking out at the city skyline. 4 years ago, she said quietly, my son worked for Solar Tech Industries. When your company acquired them, he lost his job in the restructuring. He struggled for months afterward. Malik's eyes widened. I remember that acquisition. We had to eliminate redundant positions. I know, she acknowledged. It was a business decision, nothing personal. But as a mother, she shook her head. I let it color my initial impression of you. That was wrong, I understand, Malik said. Business decisions affect real people. I try to keep that in mind. Harper turned back to him. Your legal strategy was brilliant. Appearing unprepared to lower their guard, I've never seen anything like it. Sometimes innovative thinking applies beyond technology, Malik replied with a faint smile. A knock at the door interrupted them. The clerk poked her head in. Judge Mr. Carver is asking to speak with Mr. Jackson privately. Harper raised an eyebrow. That's unusual. I'll hear what he has to say, Malik agreed. When Carver entered alone, his arrogance was gone, replaced by a desperate edge. Jackson, he said without preamble name. Your price. Whatever you want, just drop the 5-year ban. It's not about money, Malik replied. Everyone has a price, Carver insisted. 10 million, 20. The ban stands, Malik said firmly. Your company tried to steal years of my team's work. There are consequences. Carver's face darkened. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me squirm, no, Malik said honestly. I'd have preferred fair competition, where we both innovated on our own merits. Harper watched the exchange, her respect for Malik deepening. Gentlemen, she said, I think we've said all that needs saying here. Let's return to the courtroom and conclude this matter properly. As the parties filed back into courtroom 7, the gallery fell silent, every eye trained on Judge Eleanor Harper's bench. The tension was electric, the weight of the moment palpable. Malik Jackson returned to his table, his demeanor calm, but resolute, his notes neatly arranged before him. Across the aisle, Nathan Carver slumped in his seat, his once confident posture replaced by a defeated slouch. Edward Langston, Omnitech's lead attorney, shuffled his papers nervously, his earlier swagger gone. Tarangun, watching from the gallery, held her breath, her faith in Malik now unshakable. Harper took her seat, her expression stern but composed. Based on the evidence presented, she announced, I'm prepared to rule on this matter after final statements. Mr. Langston, Mr. Jackson, please prepare to deliver your closing arguments. Langston stood, his voice lacking its former polish. Your Honor, he began, while the evidence presented by Mr. Jackson is concerning, we maintain that Omnitech developed its technology through legitimate means. Ms. Coleman's testimony should be viewed with skepticism, given her departure from the company under difficult circumstances. He continued for several minutes, his arguments thin and unconvincing, even to his own ears. Carver stared at the floor no longer, the proud CEO who had strode into court days earlier. Thank you, Mr. Langston, Harper said when he finished, her tone neutral. Mr. Jackson, she said, turning to Malik, your closing statement. Malik approached the bench, his presence commanding. Unlike his fumbling first appearance, he now stood tall, his voice clear and unwavering. Your Honor, he began, the evidence speaks for itself. Omnitech's CEO visited my facility, secretly photographed proprietary technology, and directed his team to copy it. Their own documents and witnesses confirm this. Justice requires not just invalidating their fraudulent patent, but implementing the 5-year development ban to ensure meaningful consequences for corporate espionage. His words were short, sharp, and devastating. Malik returned to his seat as murmurs spread through the courtroom. Harper nodded, her gaze sweeping the room. I'll deliver my ruling now. The courtroom fell silent, everyone aware that this case would reverberate far beyond these walls, setting a precedent for how corporate espionage was handled in the tech industry. This court has carefully considered all evidence presented, Harper began. The testimony of Asha Coleman, corroborated by electronic communications, and Mr. Carver's own notes establishes clear evidence of corporate espionage. Carver closed his eyes, his defeat unmistakable. Harper continued. Therefore, Omnitech's patent number, 8726HN1, is hereby invalidated. She paused, letting the words sink in, then pressed on. Furthermore, pursuant to Section 47B of the Technological Innovation Protection Act, Omnitech Industries is prohibited from developing or marketing similar energy storage technology for a period of 5 years from today. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Harper wasn't just ruling in Malik's favor, she was granting his full remedy. Additionally, she said Omnitech shall pay damages of $20 million to Mr. Jackson's company for attempted patent infringement, plus all legal costs associated with this case. She looked directly at Carver. This court also refers this matter to the U.S. Attorney's Office for review of potential criminal charges related to industrial espionage and perjury. Carver's face went ashen. Langston placed a steadying hand on his client's arm. Before we conclude, Harper added, I wish to address something. She removed her glasses, her gaze sweeping the gallery filled with reporters. When this trial began, I made assumptions about Mr. Jackson representing himself. I doubted his abilities and, I regret to say, made comments that were unprofessional. Murmurs spread at this rare admission. The court stands corrected, she stated formally. Mr. Jackson has demonstrated that innovative thinking applies to legal strategy as well as technology. His preparation and presentation were exemplary. Malik nodded in acknowledgement, his expression humble. Court is adjourned, Harper announced, banging her gavel for the final time. The courtroom erupted in excited chatter. Reporters rushed for the doors, eager to file their stories. Carver and Langston huddled with their team, their faces grim. Tara hurried to Malik's side, her eyes shining. We did it, she exclaimed. You were incredible. We were incredible, Malik corrected, a rare smile breaking through. Your technical expertise was crucial. As they gathered their materials, Harper approached. Mr. Jackson, a word. Tara excused herself, leaving them alone. Remarkable case, Harper said. I've never seen anything quite like it. Thank you, Your Honor, Malik replied. May I ask something? Harper said. That first day, was it all an act? Malik smiled faintly. Not entirely. I was nervous. But yes, appearing unprepared was strategic. Harper shook her head in amazement. Brilliantly executed. She hesitated, then added, My son found a new job, by the way. He's doing well now. I'm glad to hear it, Malik said sincerely. As they shook hands, a mutual respect passed between them, a far cry from their adversarial start. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Malik. Mr. Jackson, how does it feel to win one? Shouted. Was your strategy planned from the beginning? Another asked. Will you pursue criminal charges against Carver? Malik raised his hands for quiet. I came here seeking justice, not revenge. The ruling speaks for itself. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. He made his way to where Tara waited with their car. As they drove away, Tara couldn't contain her curiosity. So what happens now? Malik looked out the window, his mind already shifting to the future. Now we get back to what matters, building things that change the world. But even as he said it, he knew this case had shifted something significant, not just for Jackson Tech, but for the tech industry. The next time a company considered stealing another's innovation, they'd remember Omnitech's fate and think twice. 2 months later, a sleek black car pulled up to the security gate at Jackson Tech's headquarters. Eleanor Harper, now retired from the bench, showed her ID to the guard who checked his list and waved her through. She had stepped down a month after the Omnitech case, surprising the legal community. 30 years is enough, she told reporters. Time for new challenges. In the lobby, Tara Nguyen greeted her with a smile. Judge Harper, it's good to see you again. Please call me Eleanor, she replied, returning the smile. I'm not on the bench anymore. Malik's waiting for you in the lab, Tara said, leading the way. He's excited about the tour. They walked through bright corridors where engineers and scientists worked on projects that would shape the future. Eleanor noticed the palpable energy, a sense of purpose that reminded her of her own youth. Malik met them at the main laboratory entrance, dressed in his usual simple attire. Eleanor, welcome to our facility, he said. Thank you for inviting me, she replied. And please, it's Eleanor now. Malik nodded. Ready to see what we're working on. For the next hour, he guided her through the lab, explaining their latest advances in energy storage now protected from Omnitech's interference. and other projects that left her awestruck. "This is incredible," she said, as they paused by a window overlooking the testing grounds. "So different from the world of law." "Is that why you retired?" Malik asked. "Looking for something different." "Partly," she admitted. 30 years of other people's problems takes a toll. I was ready for a change. They moved to a quieter section of the building, entering a small conference room with a view of the mountains. Coffee waited on the table. "I have a confession," Malik said as they sat. "There's a reason I invited you here today." "I suspected as much," Eleanor replied, sipping her coffee. "What is it?" Malik studied her for a moment. "During the trial, did you ever wonder why I chose to represent myself? It wasn't just strategy. I wanted to face you directly." Eleanor frowned. "Face me? Why? Because I knew who you were," Malik said simply. "Not just as a judge, but as an engineer." Eleanor's eyes widened, her coffee forgotten. "What do you mean before your law career, you were Eleanor Harper of MIT, who created a revolutionary battery design in the 1980s? Eleanor set down her cup, her hand trembling slightly. "How did you know that it was so long ago?" "I make it my business to know the history of my field," Malik explained. "Your design was ahead of its time. A company called Vertex Tech stole it from you, as I recall." "Yes," she said quietly. "They did. I was young, naive. I showed them my prototype thinking they'd help develop it. Instead, they claimed it as their own. Which is why you went to law school," Malik added, "to ensure it wouldn't happen to others." Eleanor nodded, surprised by how well he understood her story. "I couldn't afford to fight them back then. There were no laws like Section 47B to protect individual inventors." "Did you know you were assigned to my case because of your technical background?" Malik asked. "Of course," she replied. "The court often matches judges with relevant expertise. What you didn't know," Malik continued, "is that I discovered this connection early on. I researched your background thoroughly." Understanding dawned in Eleanor's eyes. "You designed your entire legal strategy to appeal to both my technical knowledge and my personal history." Malik confirmed with a nod. "I knew you'd recognize what Carver had done because it happened to you. So all that fumbling on the first day was to make everyone underestimate me, including you." Eleanor laughed, a sound of genuine amusement. "I should be offended that you manipulated the court this way. I prefer to think of it as understanding my audience." Malik said, his smile widening. "The evidence was real. The law was real. I just presented it in a way I knew would resonate with you." "Brilliant," she acknowledged. "Absolutely brilliant." They sat in silence for a moment, two minds finding unexpected common ground. So Eleanor finally said, "Why am I really here today? Surely not just for a tour and a revelation." "No," Malik agreed. He opened a folder on the table and slid it toward her. Inside was a contract. "I need someone who understands both technology and law to help our legal department," he explained. "Someone who can protect our innovations while navigating complex regulatory issues." Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "You want to hire me? I want to partner with you," Malik corrected. "Your experience as an engineer who was wronged and as a judge who protected innovation makes you uniquely qualified." "I haven't practiced law in 30 years," she pointed out. "You don't need to. You'll have a team of attorneys under you. What I need is your judgment and understanding of both worlds." Eleanor thumbed through the contract, considering the offer. It would be a seismic shift, but the prospect excited her. "You didn't retire just to play golf, did you?" Malik said, reading her thoughts. She laughed again. "You have me there." Standing, Eleanor walked to the window, gazing at the mountains. For decades, she'd enforced the law from the bench. Now she had a chance to protect innovation from within, to create rather than just judge. She turned back to Malik. "Before I decide, I have one question. Was any of this your strategy, this job offer about revenge because my son lost his job when you acquired Solar Tech?" "No," Malik answered honestly. "That was a business decision, nothing personal. This is also a business decision. I believe you're the right person for this role." Satisfied, Eleanor made her decision. She removed a folded judicial robe from her bag, draping it over the chair, a symbolic gesture of leaving her old role behind. Sometimes, she said, echoing Malik's earlier words to Tara, "You have to do things yourself." Malik stood and extended his hand. "Welcome to the team, Eleanor." As they shook hands, both knew this was the start of something significant. Two brilliant minds, once adversaries, now united in a shared purpose. Across town in a nearly empty office, Nathan Carver packed the last of his belongings. Omnitech's board had forced his resignation, the 5-year ban devastating their energy division. Criminal charges were still pending. He'd thought himself clever, stealing ideas instead of creating them. Now he understood what Malik Jackson had known all along. True innovation couldn't be stolen, it had to be earned. Months later, Jackson Tech unveiled a new energy storage system, its nanocoating technology powering homes and vehicles with unprecedented efficiency. Headlines praised Malik's vision, but he deflected credit to his team, especially Tara and Eleanor, whose expertise had safeguarded their work. In boardrooms worldwide, executives took note the cost of corporate espionage was no longer just a fine, it was oblivion. As Malik stood in his lab watching a new prototype hum to life, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Justice had been served not through vengeance, but through innovation, strategy, and truth. And with Eleanor Harper by his side, he knew the future held even greater possibilities.